Her body tightened, and then... boom! Distant thunder shuddered through her body, and she braced herself against the stone turret, straining to see. The harder she stared, the clearer the speck became. A longship surging up the crest of a swollen gray wave, riding the peak and sliding down into the trough. She could almost taste the cold salt spray on her skin, in her nostrils, could almost hear the rumble of the boat's drum, the grunts of the rowers, the strain of the sail. Fools or unlucky to be out in a storm like this. They would never reach Skyros in time. Or so she hoped. "A longship," she said, "just ahead of the storm." Her throat burned with sudden bile. She couldn't make out the sail clearly, but 1,000 fears and plans stormed through her brain regardless. If it was a Myrmidon ant sail, she would hide herself in the caves below the palace, or out in the forest, or in Scorpia's farm village down the coast. She would stay there for weeks, until it was safe to come out. I will never let them find me. I will never go back alive. "They'll drown," Dolops seemed resigned. "Do you know what it's like to drown, Lady Red?" Unfortunately, no. It was easier to lie. Better to hear him explain again how the body died in water than to tell him what it really felt like. The way her lungs had burned in air, then in water, then in what felt like subtle fire. Maybe they won't drown. But it would be easier for her if they did. The longship had risen up out of the trough, mast taut on the wind, sail jerking like a living thing. The ship raced ahead of the black clouds, fleeing toward the shoals of Skyros. It seemed to her that she could see even better now, her eyes impossibly keen. The tiny black speck was alive with struggling men, straining oars, flapping sail, while in her ear the morning breeze sighed and Dolops droned softly on about a watery death. The longship leapt, battered by wind and sea, but kept together, knifing down the shallow slope of the next wave and immediately slicing up the next. Now Achilles could see the sail clearly, not the black ant of Thea, but a 7-branched tree. Relief washed over her, and then terror for the sailors. A man clung to the bow, shaking his fist in the air as if shouting defiance at the sea. Magnificent he was, slashing the air with his hand. The oars rose and fell on his signal, and the sails billowed, warped and twisted by sailors clinging to the ropes. Thunder echoed again. "I see it now," said Lykorgos. "They'll never make it." The waves were rising nearer, and the sea was black, and the storm from the mainland was quickly closing in. "They're probably praying to half the gods in the world right now." "Gods won't help them." Achilles gripped the stone turret ledge. She could not look away, but the idea that she would watch them die was too cruel. Still, she stood frozen, staring. The man on the longship shouted to his crew, and the boat turned as it picked up speed, cutting up the next wave at an angle, down the next one even sharper still, finding the safest heading. The sail tightened again, and Achilles gasped. They knew exactly what they were doing. Lightning flashed, and the longship skimmed nearer, seconds ahead of the storm. "I don't believe it," Dolops exclaimed. "I've never seen such sailing," said Lykorgos. "They'll be here by noon." So will the storm. But not the storm she was dreading. Her flashbacks were just memories, not prophecies. Chiron was not coming. She was still safe. A little before noon, Achilles went down to the women's quarters and asked Damia to come down with her to the docks and to lend her an umbrella. Damia's umbrella was enormous, set up on a stand in the middle of her bedchamber, covering her makeup bench in a grand wooden hide canopy hung with dangling charms of bronze and silver, magical talismans from Ashur, and a long cedar handle carved in Nineveh with scenes of tranquility to appease the Lord of Thunder. The umbrella was a gift from the great king of Ashur to Damia's father, who had given it in turn to his firstborn daughter. "Why do you want to take my Ashurian royal umbrella to the docks in the middle of a downpour?" Damia was still in bed, hair tousled, knotted up in her blankets. "I don't feel well. A ship came in ahead of the storm."